Hi, folks. We'll bring the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Services Committee meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, November 29th, 4 p.m., and I am your chair today. Councillor Au sends his regrets, and the rest of the committee, in addition, Councillor Day is here, so we'll get started. First, we have for the minutes, a motion to adopt the minutes of the meeting of Parks, Rec, and Culture Services held on October 19th, 2022.
So moved.
Second. All right, all in favor? And that's the last one that Councillor Steeves was the chair of, just noting that. Next committee meeting date is set for December 21st, 2022, and it's tentatively set for 4 p.m. in these chambers. Our first item of business is a delegation. We have Linda Barnes, Chair of the Richmond Arts Coalition, to present the yearly update of activities and events, and we should have in front of us a double-sided handout that was provided in advance. So welcome.
Thanks very much, Councillor Wolf. It's good to see you up there. I'm Linda Barnes. I'm the chairperson of the Richmond Arts Coalition, and with me today I have Andrew Wade, who is our executive director, and I know we have several members of our board here. We have Paul Dufour here with us in person. We have several who are Zooming in as well. Just before I start our presentation, though, I would like to give a quick kudos out to our road crews. I did drive in, and the roads are pretty good, particularly if you're on the main roads. They're very good. So I just wanted to say thank you to our roads crew. I know there was a discussion last night on council, and so they do a good job. So that brings us to the Richmond Arts Coalition. We're very pleased to be here today to let you know what we have been up to this past year and what a few of our plans are for the upcoming year. As you said, you do have a handout, so I'm not going to read the whole thing. That certainly will be included in the minutes. But I would like to highlight a few things on it, particularly those who are new to council, or particularly those who are new to the listening audience today. We do have a YouTube media channel, and we are pleased that our Let's Celebrate 2 will be up there, and we are looking forward to filming our third edition of the Let's Celebrate Together, and it is on www.youtube.com.c.Richmond Arts Coalition. And so that will be on the handout, and I encourage yourselves and the listening audience to tune in and become, is it members?
I mean, you can subscribe.
Subscribe, that's the word.
Yeah.
And so the other one I'd like to highlight is the Richmond Maritime Festival. I know a number of you attended that festival, and we're so pleased to be able to continue to provide grant for the payment of the artists that attend that festival. And to date, we've brought in approximately $750,000 to pay artists for that event. So that's just one of the contributions that the Richmond Arts Coalition has done. I would like to say a big shout out to staff at the city. We did host our Culture Days this year, and we had an artist work with some students with the Richmond School District, 2 different schools, and they created art, particularly nature art, and thanks to city staff, we were able to exhibit those at Branscombe House. Branscombe House, of course, most of you know, is a beautiful home, renovated, and sits at the corner of Railway and Steveston Highway. Most of the people who attended that had never been inside. So it was an opportunity to not only showcase our students and what Richmond Arts Coalition does, but also that beautiful heritage home there. The other one I would like to acknowledge too, and all of you sitting there took part of this. Richmond Arts Coalition put out an election advocacy questionnaire for all the people running in the civic election, both as council and school board. And thank you all for taking part in that. And it's just the acknowledgement of the power of the arts is a smart political move, as is indicated by the results sitting in front of you. One of the other things that we do is continue to partner with the Steveston Historical Society, of which I also happen to chair. But we're pleased that the artists are local performers. They will be performing the next 3 Saturdays in the Steveston Town Park, right next door to our museum and post office. It's Saturdays from 4 until 6. And it's an opportunity to come have hot chocolate, enjoy the beautiful lights that the city puts up, listen to local performers, and also some arts and crafts will be there as well. So bring your kids, your grandkids, your neighbors. It's open, it's a free event, thanks to our sponsors, one of which is the BC Arts Council that pays for these talented local artists to perform. And of course, we continue to advocate for purpose-built art spaces, particularly rehearsal and performance spaces and exhibit spaces. As redevelopment and new development occurs, please ensure that space for the arts is built into these amenities that are required. Our city is growing, but purposeful built art spaces are not keeping pace either. Existing arts infrastructure, such as the Gateway Theatre, is aging, and some of its technical systems are obsolete. RAC asks that new facilities be moved forward to the city's capital planning. Some of our plans for next year include in this upcoming year, we plan on creating a needs survey for our members and the community. We want to ensure that our information is as up to date as possible. And so in conclusion, the Richmond Arts Coalition will continue to ensure that the voice of the arts in Richmond is loud, strong, and informed. Thank you. We're open to any questions or comments.
Thank you. From committee, any questions, comments? Thank you. Go ahead. Councillor Glanders.
Hello. Thank you. I just didn't catch, is it just this Saturday that performance is, or is it also is it just the 3rd of December?
It's December 3rd, December 10th, and December 17th.
Oh,
with
great.
Different performing artists at each time, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. And there will also be an online-only edition that will show up on our YouTube channel.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I don't see any other hands up. Just a comment that I wanted to make was, I did note in here, you're excited about the Arts Annex, and as we're hoping in kind of the soft start in spring to summer season. And also a note there that you didn't share, but you're here as a humble chair, but you're on your way out from this current position, and I'm sure your advocacy, your knowledge will be tapped into for years, decades to come, and that you'll find a new chair position that could use your expertise. So we look forward to seeing how you continue in that regard. Anything else? Anything else you wanted to share, Andrew?
Nope. Thank you for that, Councillor Wolf. Just so you know that our AGM will most likely be the end of April, and we'll be extending invitations to council who would like to attend. And so you're stuck with me until at least then.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming. All right, that takes us to item number 2 from Community Services Division, and it is the new Capstan Village Park concept plan. So first, if there's anything from staff that you'd like to highlight, outline, or update us on.
Thank you, Chair. Nothing to add, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Are there any questions from committee on this one? Oh, you do have your hand. Oh, it gets ahead of me here. Okay, go ahead. Councilor.
Thank you, and through the chair. I don't really have a question, but I did want to make a comment, just reading through the report. I love it. Like, I think it looks fantastic. I think, like the wildlife area and the trees that have been kept in that kind of park setting are great. I think the use of berms separating, the street, in the park is great. The meandering pathway, I really like that. And so, I just think it looks fantastic. And I commented to a couple people earlier that, it's just so much, and we've had a couple park openings lately and they've all been excellent too. But it's just so dramatically different than what a park was when I was a kid, right? Which was a previous century, a long time ago, I know. But, it's just so much more than just a grass field. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. So compliments to staff and everybody who has contributed to the design and provided input, and I love it. So good job, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Day.
Hi. Yeah, thank you again for the report. On page 23, question 4 asks, I think I would arrive to the park by the following mode of travel. And number 1 is vehicle, personal vehicle. And that kind of surprised me a little because it's a neighborhood park. But I'm assuming that's because these residences aren't built yet. And so you had to go a little further afoot to get responses that would be useful. Is that correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Day. This question was a request by transportation team wanted to ask as part of our survey just to provide transportation data for their project. So we do not have any parkings for this park as part of the design. So if you are taking the vehicle, you do have to probably park somewhere and then walk to the park, because the park is mainly serve the local needs of immediate residential neighborhood and commercial neighborhood. And also we're trying to support sustainable modes of transportation. As Capstan Village is a transit-oriented village.
But is it logical to assume that once all of these buildings are built, really, most of the people that use that park will be from the immediate area? Do you anticipate that?
That is correct. Through the chair to Councillor Day, that's correct.
Well, there's no one there now, so you had to ask people from around the neighborhood.
That's right.
Okay, well, let's see what those numbers are down the road when this is actually built. Thank you very much, Councillor Wolf.
I don't see anyone else on the council queue, so we'll go to delegates. I believe there's 3 delegates who are in the audience today, and I think Mr. Wright wanted to go first. I'll invite you up to the microphone, and if you have anything you wanted to project, just lay it flat down in front of you, and the clerks will.
Is it working now? It's not working.
Oh, it's not working.
So
okay.
what I'll do is I'll just wave things around, and you actually sort of are familiar with them, but I could just point at things a little bit better if I were projecting.
Okay,
So
yeah,
anyway, so it's Jim Wright, Oscar Drive, Councillor Wolf as chair, and all council members and staff and residents. Thank you for the chance to talk with you about the promising Capstan Vision Park plan. You will have read the memo I sent, and I just brought this just so you know what I was talking about. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start by reviewing a statement about the park's focus. Mostly I'll be talking about other things. It's encouraging that the survey respondents valued the bird habitat, since the reason for replacing the original park location with a natural area was to retain and enhance the forest ecosystem, which had many birds. A lot of the trees are being lost, so there are a lot of tree ecosystems to replace. However, the tree removal along Garden City Road can enable sunny pollinator habitat. So this is kind of the silver lining that because those big trees, so including beautiful oaks, were removed, But now the sun can come in there for a lot of the time, and it can do that a lot more there than in most of this park area. And now there's a really beautiful project map, and in that it shows this line. It shows this line of new trees. So my thought on that, and then there's a sidewalk inside that, and then there are the berms. And this could be really good for cutting out the noise, especially if that's one of the factors in choosing the trees. And I'm suggesting another factor with choosing the trees is that they're not actually going to be ones that'll grow very tall in that place, because let's take advantage of this and have the sun coming in. Anyway, and I hope too that we can have the noise barrier along Canby as well, and that's entirely possible, and it just takes a few simple measures like the berm, but it probably would be different there. And because if this is going to work, people have to be able to enjoy it, and you can't enjoy it with the amount of noise that you have there right now. I went there the other day, and there are so many cars honking and screeches and all kinds of things that it's not really very tranquil, but it can be. That's going to be up to the park planners, and they can make it really quiet for wildlife and human life. I'm going to try to speed up, sorry. So anyway, right now, by the way, especially if we can have the sun coming in, then we can have a lot of pollinator-friendly vegetation, okay? There were a lot of birds coming because Murray, the fellow who had a place there, fed them. But so it shows there are a lot of birds that would like to come there, but now we're going to have to do it wildly with pollinator vegetation. Anyway, now one thing though, right now, much of the area is assigned to off-leash dogs. Like it's number 5 here, and that is a big concern. As usual, it would be surrounded by a chain link fence that would be high and strong enough to keep the dogs in. And all of this can be fine in a large park with plenty of space for it and surrounding it. But I see it as not suitable for this little park, especially because that's the best place for a lot of other things that I've just been describing. The park survey makers actually favored this off-leash area. Respondents had to choose a concept that featured it, or otherwise choose nothing. And even then, less than 30% of the people who responded chose off-leash dogs in their 8 chosen elements. So it actually was not a popular choice. As well, the park report's map of the area, which is this, it shows that there are 3 dog leash areas in parks that are nearby, and especially there's one that's just south. It's not much use to wave this around, but there's one that's just south of that area of the Talisman development, one just north of it, and there is one slightly south and to the east, and that's a little further away, and there's another close one that's to the west. Those are, well, it doesn't really matter. One is just, well, Ketchison Road runs through the development, and one of them is 100 meters from Ketchison and Capstan, and another is 300 from Ketchison and Canby. So that's
Did you
pretty
have
close.
any concluding
Okay,
remarks
can
or
I just,
final points?
can I speed up fast, Chip, okay? And get through it, but move quickly? Okay, so this is Velcro, the dog of my family, okay? And clowning with his twin sister, Susie, okay? And Velcro can't be here because of congestive heart, not failure, but a problem. But I know what he wants. And he wants forest restoration and bird habitat restoration and serenity so that the kinds of people who love dogs will go to the park, where he can mix with both kinds of friends. It's to enable that, he nixes off-leash dog areas, unnatural paths, and noisy sports and music. Now, Velcro has devoted his life to helping humans to be happy as he is. He wants every aspect of the park to bring happiness to all creatures. So half doing the Capstan Village Park Forest, which will happen with the dog area, that would be a big problem. It would be mediocre. Committing to the best of restored forest, habitat, and happiness will lead to wild success. So final comment is, I commend the park designers' excellent progress. And I ask the committee to focus on the core values, shedding the off-leash dog element and any other aspect that detracts from that idealistic and ambitious but achievable core vision. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. I'll be asking some questions to staff a little bit later. So we'll invite our second speaker. I believe Sharon McGugan was coming up next. And we have 5 minutes. And it did work for the last speaker to actually hold up an image if you did have any.
Oh, I don't have images. Okay. Sharon McGugan, President, Garden City Conservation Society, 7411 Ash Street, Richmond. Acknowledgement and great thanks for all the work that has gone into this park plan. It was amazingly gratifying to see that bird habitat is firmly embedded in the plan and supported by the community. This is particularly relevant for 2 reasons. 1, Richmond has a special status and inherent responsibilities related to birds, being located in the Fraser Estuary and now with the international designation of being a key biodiversity area, KBA. What we do in all of our planning makes a difference, not only to us, but also to the birds and other wildlife that come under our care and protection. 2, we've experienced so much ecological loss that is not mitigated. To have a park with goals of providing bird habitat and nesting opportunities says a lot about us as a community. Good to see that ecological mitigation is given serious attention. It is also a credit to the park planners that created this option. This park could make a brilliant addition to Richmond's ecological network as part of a management strategy, especially with the utilization of interpretive signage. I have a few comments and suggestions, mainly related to the fact that this is a small park and a natural one. Dog park. Capstan Village Park is small and dog parks are inherently noisy. Efforts are being made to provide a quieter park where people can listen to natural sounds. Dog barking is at odds with this. Plus, the park is small and birds need some undisturbed areas, especially for nesting. Removing the dog park area could provide more space for bird activity and viewing. I checked this out myself at Garden City Community Park, the dog parks along Granville, and I could hear the dogs barking very happily, but 1 block away. It is noisy, and I'm a dog lover. Our society has participated in bird watching at Garden City Community Park, which is 21 acres. The best area for seeing birds is along the east path and slough because they have a large undisturbed area. Although the park is large, birds congregate where they have space and they feel safe. If we want to encourage bird nesting, bird watching, and general enjoyment of nature, we need to provide the right set of conditions for birds. Naturalized area. The report states that the layout of pathways will have a minimum impact on the existing trees. Of course, this is great. One suggestion is to create limited pathways, because it's a small park, that respect natural bird habitat areas. This may have already been done, but that's my suggestion. That respect natural bird habitat areas, leaving them undisturbed. Also, quiet contemplation, those two words taken from the report, is a great goal and almost impossible to achieve in most urban settings. But we believe it can be done. Report states impermeable surface will be minimized throughout the park to reduce stormwater runoff. Excellent. And in conclusion, at 1.34 acres, this is a small park. It's hard to find places in Richmond to walk peacefully without being bombarded with noise. If we end up with a park where people can enjoy quiet contemplation in nature with space for birds, that would be a great park. Or I should say that is a great park. There are multiple other parks within walking distance of this development that could easily provide space for more active uses, including dog parks. Let's have one nature-focused, different kind of park at Capstan Village Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McGugan, is there any comments, questions? Oh, Karen Day, we have one from Councillor Day.
Really, thank you for coming out to begin with and suggesting the idea that we move the park from its original location to this new location, which clearly was the right choice. And you put a lot of work into that, and I certainly appreciate it. My question is about dog walking. Even the report says that while a dog-friendly park was mentioned many times, some felt an off-leash area is not suitable for the park. An off-leash area with separation for small dogs was preferred. Would you agree with that?
Well, I have two dogs. We don't use the dog park because there is not separation for small dogs. We have small dogs. And I just don't feel personally that this is a great location. We have so few natural areas. In most of our parks, we have so few natural parks throughout Richmond. And to take a natural area and then, humanize it as well in a really small park. So it just appears to me that there's so many large parks with large, grassy areas that would be more suitable for dog parks. It's hard, we worry about biodiversity. I mean, that's why we planted the Milwaukee Forest. I mean, we're trying to prepare for the future, and to take out biodiversity for yet another human use, because it's really about people with their dogs. The dogs don't care. They're on a leash walking through the park. They're just as happy as being in the dog park.
So that leads to my second question. It sounds like you would not be opposed to dog walking, just an off-leash.
Oh, yeah, no, dog walking for sure, because lots of people have conversations with their dogs, lots of friendly meetings. It's a great way. That's community. That's community building. No, that's a great activity. And like I say, I'm a real dog lover. But just please don't take the tiny little bit of natural area for another humanized use, because it's a very tiny park. And my comment about the Garden City Community Park, that's a huge park. It's a great park. But when we were Birds Canada, we were bird watching with Birds Canada, and that was the only area, that east pathway with the slough, where there's undisturbed areas, that's where we stayed. because we couldn't see birds. And we don't see birds in most of our parks. We see birds when they have places, they have food sources, and they have habitat. So that's what we really need to retain.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you
all
for
done?
coming. Yes,
Yeah.
and we have one more speaker. Is there anyone else in the council chambers who'd like to speak after Ms. Bell? Come on up. Last.
My name is Yvonne Bell. I live at 10431 Mortfield Road, Richmond, BC, B7A2W1. I'm probably just going to reiterate, I don't think I'm going to say anything new that the past two speakers have not said already. But I'm very thankful for the opportunity to express my thanks and concerns regarding the Capstan Village Park, located at the corner of Garden City and 3 Road. And this is a 1.34 acre park, which is much smaller than the all of the trees and the field that were there previously. So it's a shrunk down area. And so as the two previous speakers said, regarding the dog park, the off-leash dog area, there are already within 5 and 6 minutes of walking from this park, already 2 off-leash dog areas, and those parks are larger than this park. The one at Aberdeen is 4.18 acres, 4.18 acres, and Ketchison is 1.6, and this is only 1.34. So I'm in favor of keeping this park as natural as possible. So I don't see an off-leash dog area being part of that. And another concern I have is that there's 2 pavilions, entrance plaza with pavilion. I'm looking at this colorful sheet, number 4 and number 5. And I wondered, for such a small park, if you needed 2 entrance plazas or 2 plazas. So everything you build on it takes away from the trees, from the current old trees that are there. And also I was on the bird walk that Sharon was talking about in Garden City Park, and where the lawns were in Garden City Park, no bird watching there. And so not many people there either. They're mostly on the paths. So I'm not a big fan of open lawn areas. I much more would hope to see what is conducive for wildlife habitat and birds and other wildlife that might come in there, maybe some raccoons. 2 consecutive days now, I've seen really large raccoons killed on the side of the road, so I wonder if there's anywhere for them. And let's see, and I'm very thankful about the just one second, what you're going to put on the paths. I'm hoping they're not going to be blacktop, but they said they would be water permeable throughout. I'm just hoping it's something that is 100% biodegradable to keep this park as natural as possible. So my hope is that this will be the start of many parks in Richmond that are nature-based and full of mature trees and natural wildlife habitat, like many Richmond nature parks all over Richmond. So that is what my hope is, because there's sure a lot of mature trees in this area right now. And unfortunately, the sign in front says 103 trees will be coming down in this area. So that's really breaks my heart. And also all the mature trees along Garden City are going to be cut down to make way for, I guess, widening of the sidewalk. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming forward and complimenting the last speakers. I don't have any questions for you, so thank you very much. We will ask staff to come back up, though. There will be some follow-up from those presentations. And the first question is from Councillor McNulty.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the presentation, and thank the delegations that come. I have a question, a couple of questions and a comment. I'm make an unpopular statement, but if we didn't have the dog off-leash area, what would we replace it with?
To the chair, to Councillor McNulty, there are potentially many opportunities and programming ideas. We can, for example, we can simply leave the area as natural. We can increase the berms. We can create pollinator gardens, etc., etc. There are many other references that we can also be inspired from the survey as well. So it's not a necessity to have a dog park, but considering the future density of the area and its a program to the magnitude of a dog park would be easier to plan from the beginning than to be added in the future after everything is done.
Okay, thank you for that answer, which I want to focus more on it. I want to get the impression, make the comment. I do love dogs. I had 5 of them. Okay, and the goat was in charge of the dogs, and worked out as childhood. I don't see that dog off-leash park in the park myself. Okay, that's just myself. Unless it was fenced, like we do at Alderbridge. And the reason for that is if it's dogs off-leash, dogs are going to go all the way over to the Tots play. They're off-leash. Even when people, and I was interested in the comment of dog walks, I don't like dog walkers because when I walk by a dog, the dog comes up and snaps at me and they pull it back. And I'm sort of saying, I don't need that threat. I have space out there too. Look after your dog. So I guess it brings up the whole concepts of dogs in parks, etc. So, and it's a whole debatable issue, and I know there's 7,000 licensed dog owners and registered with Richmond. Are going to hate me for this comment, but I'm sorry. If you're a good dog owner, I love you. But if it's one that you let your dog come off your lanyard 25 feet and it's he won't bite you. How did they know I'm not afraid of dogs? But anyhow, that's a whole, and I think that's something. So on this, it's my assertion that given the clientele that's going to live in this area, I'm not so sure that this is, and the dog off-leash area should be here. As it was mentioned, we've got a couple down the street, what, 400 meters? Correct me if I'm wrong, somewhere in 400 meters, where you can take your dog. It's just like if I want to cycle, I'll go on the cycling and go down there. I'll make an effort to do what I want to do. So anyhow, if we're going to keep it, I would suggest it sort of be like a play area for dogs and it'd be fenced in to be great. And now it's ugly. You know, if you look at Elmbridge, for example, where you got a very small park, it's wonderful. The dogs have a ball in there, people are in there and they clean up. And then the other question is, dogs off leash, who's going to clean up? Because some dog owners aren't as responsible as others. So it begs the whole problem, given the density that's going to be around here. That's where I'm coming from through the chair. And I'm sure others will have it. So I just, I'll support the concept, but since we used to get a few complaints, then that's possibly what we do. But maybe we can look at it in the outset. That's why I asked, Mr. Chair, what would we replace it with? And not necessarily programmed. Why not just leave it natural? As opposed to, you know, one of the things that I've sort of, like, when you go to a grass field, you don't have to tell the kids how to play. Just grass, whether you got a ball, a can, or a bladder, or whatever it is, or you just play tag. You don't need to program for it, don't always need a program. So anyhow, that was just my comments. Otherwise, I think you've done a good job, and I think the delegation has brought up some very, very good points. And given that area, and it's gonna develop I forgot how many people are gonna be in there. And so that's just a comment. Take it under advisement. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks for leading off. On to Councillor Hobbs.
Thank you, and through the chair. I guess I should start off by saying I love dogs, but I'm not going to. Yeah, dogs are okay. You know, I started off by complimenting you on the park, and I mean that. I think it looks fantastic, and truthfully, and I mentioned this to the chair before the meeting, one of the things that did jump out at me a little bit was the dog park and the off-leash part of it. And actually, so that was a concern, but so it's interesting to hear other people bring that up as one of the things that jumps out of them. So one question is, when we plan a park in the city, kind of strategically, you know, we must consider where we're going to put dog parks and off-leash parks, and I hear that there are some in relative close proximity to this, and that's correct? It's on the map. Well, it's a little hard for me to read right here, but that's right. Correct? Right. So the other part of it is when we plan a park and there's competing, you know, uses for park space, you know, different people might want to fly kites or drones or something, which you wouldn't do here, and dogs is one of them. So is there a minimum size of a park? Because this is 1.34 acres, I think it is. So it's relatively small, as has been pointed out. Is there a minimum size of a park before we'd start looking at certain uses, including in this case, a dog park?
Through the chair to Councillor Hobbs. At the moment, we don't have a clear set of parametrics, so to speak, to determine how big of a park that warrants a dog park. But at the same time, what we consider are surrounding uses, context, future density, etc. So a bunch of factors, right? For parks associated to new development, we always trying to catch on to the opportunity to see what programs could be valuable for future community. And in this case, that's really the focus.
Sure. And I mean, the last comment I'll make is just, it's been pointed out that you can still walk a dog through a park on a leash, right? So it's not about banning dogs or anything. It's about whether you're going to have an off-leash area. And I'll wait and see what other people say, but I'm open to the idea of, not having that in this park for the reasons that have already been stated by some people. So I'll listen to what other members of committee have to say, and maybe we'll come up with some other solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Galanders?
Thank you, through the chair. I just have a couple of questions and comments as well. First of all, the new trees, and I apologize if it's in the report. What species are all the new trees going to be? Are they going to be native species like cedar and fir?
Through the chair to Councillor Gillanders, we're working with the applicant's consultant to select the trees. We will look at native species, but our focus will also on the climate resilient options, just giving the existing conditions, and also for maintenance considerations.
Okay. And also, what size is the pavilion? What is it? Just washrooms, and is it sort of as small as it could be? Is it just washrooms, or what else is in the pavilion?
Through the chair to Councillor Gillanders, currently we only have one pavilion at the park main entrance. That one doesn't have a washroom facility in it. It's a covered area, which is also the kind of high-level summary we have heard from the survey results, that covered area will be desired.
Okay. Oh, so it's a covered area.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. And I just want to make comments about the dog park as well. I definitely feel like this park should be a wildlife, natural focused park based on, this was a really huge site and amount of land and natural area that we had that we were losing to development. And we were able to save this small piece, and it was the advocacy of the people that helped save it. And it was very important to everybody, and it's important to have a contiguous, wildlife corridor and habitats that are undisturbed. And I know this from I try to encourage nesting birds in my garden, because we have some cedar trees, and they will not nest if there's too much noise. They won't nest even close to where the bird feeders are. It has to be a comfortable enough distance away. And they will nest where there's people walking by, but they won't nest where there's a lot of cluster of activity. And a dog park is definitely very loud because the dogs are all playing together. And I completely agree with the delegations tonight about it not needing to be there. I know that I do not have a dog, but I love dogs. But all of my friends who have dogs, they take their dog to their activities. Which park are we gonna go to today? Let's go check out this one. They drive in their car and they go to McDonald Beach, or they go to the other new one that opened, or they walk to the nearest one. And since there are 2 other ones that are in walking distance from here, you can take your dog to the park you wanna go to that has the off-leash park that you love. But the birds in the trees don't have anywhere else to go, right? So we need to create this area for them, I believe. And I want to point out on Mr. Wright's submission that the top 8 favorite programs of the park, the dog walking didn't even make it into the top 8. So yeah, I'm totally supportive of of this council requesting that we remove the dog off-leash area from this park altogether, and look at replacing it with just some more trees, some benches for quiet contemplation area. I love that idea, because also this is a really high density, development, and it is loud living with lots of people. We're expecting families to live in condos now, and to be able to go walk somewhere and have some peace and quiet, I think is going to be really valuable. So I like that. And open lawn areas, I'm not a huge fan of lawns as well, but I'm okay with leaving it open for now, because you never know, down the road there might be a project to, let's do a bunch of salal here and create an edible area where we plant all native edible plants, or children might want to do something like that, do a native planting area or whatnot. So we'll see how it goes, but everything else, I think it's great. Yeah, and just one more, I just want to make one more highlight. I noticed that, yes, so I agree with Councillor Day that the people that had to respond to the survey are people that would drive to the park, but almost 50% of people responded that they would take e-scooters or bikes, which is really great. So I just want to make sure that there will be, I'm sure there will be, but but bike paths to get to the park from all the surrounding areas. I don't know if that's a question or just a statement. Thank you.
We'll go to Councillor Day.
Thank you very much. Through the chair, I'm looking at attachment 2, which is on our PRCS 14. Item 2 is the background information. And I note on there that there's going to be about 1,341 units when this is built out. So that's a lot of homes. And I'm wondering, will all of those will they be pet friendly?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, staff in parks do not know. So it's a question probably that would be answered by actually the strata management. I don't even know if staff would know that quite.
Mr. Craig is nodding, so I think they're all going to be pet friendly.
Through the chair, it'll be up to the individual strata corporations to develop their own.
Okay, and then I note on there that the Capstan Station will have 1.95 acres of new public open space. Is there any reason that the fenced dog park couldn't be there?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, many of those open spaces will be accessible corridors, connections, etc., through the development within the polygon site. It is possible that a dog off-leash area can be incorporated. Obviously, in the future, through the detailed design stage, the staff can pass the message to the applicant to consider. That those areas are not secured by the city as the city park. So there may be a certain kind of complication with that status.
Okay, thanks. I'm sorry, I want a couple more questions. So we've got a lot of buildings, and a lot of them seem to have green type of roofs. Is it possible to have green space that could potentially include a dog area on the roof of these buildings?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, similar to the previous answer, those spaces would be completely privately owned. So staff would not have a say in how to use those spaces, but we can certainly pass the comment, council's comment to the developer for them to consider.
Yeah, I think if I mean, we have to expect people to live in condos now. That's the way it is. I think we should encourage the builders to have a green space on the roof, if at all possible. I realize that there has to be a lot of machinery and mechanisms as well, but they're pretty big roofs. And if they're going to allow pets, then I think they should accommodate the pets. And what better area than the roof? And yeah, basically, when I look at this attachment two, to me, it just seems like there's a lot of opportunities. And, you know, when this comes to council, I would agree with the majority of council here on the Parks Committee, that probably getting rid of the dog area in such a small park that's only 1.34 acres is probably the wise thing to do. That doesn't mean people can't walk through the park with a dog, but it's just too small. We can't be everything to everyone. It'd be nice if we could, but let's face it, everybody's lucky to get the park in the first place. So if that means you can only walk your dog through, maybe that's the price we pay. At any rate, I think that work you've done is phenomenal. I'm so impressed with all the options. I think keeping it as natural and green as it already is going to be a blessing to all the people who live there. And I think it's going to be a real life changer for a lot of people. So great job.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Day. Thank you, committee. I'll just have a few comments myself and then perhaps some wording to add to this before it goes to council. So my comments have mostly been highlighted by the delegates and by committee. The additional ones I was just going to pose to staff were around fruit trees. So I know one of the original options that were in their plan was called the orchard, and maybe nut trees or fruit trees could be potentially considered for one area. I know a lot of people do reach out to me saying, why are we not planting apple trees where I can pick an apple when I'm in the park and show my son or daughter where food comes from. So if that could be perhaps a consideration in there. Thanks. The next one I wanted to bring up was the park concept plan that's on our page 34, 35, and it shows where the potential for the dog park could be in that kind of brownish color. Where it's situated, it would really, in my mind, infringe on some of the mature trees that are being retained. Whereas if you look back to the two options that were earlier presented, the one that called the orchard had the dog off-leash area right up against Garden City Road, where all the trees are basically being removed along that stretch, sadly. So I would say that if there was any dog off-leash or dog-focused programming space, it should be away from as many of the refuge areas or the old growth trees that will be remaining. So if anything, I would see that as being the option for a location. But again, I echo what others have said. We all love dogs and we are and expect people to walk the trails with their dogs, but perhaps it's not the off-leash area component that we need to actually have in the plan. And like staff have said, we can't determine what gets utilized on these corridor pathways around the Talisman development or on the green space on the roofs. What we at this table can make some decisions on is what goes on in the actual park space. So I would, is Councillor McNulty interested in making an amendment?
I was going to make a motion.
Okay.
If
I'll take it
I
now.
may. that what we have on our page 2, rather than be approved, that the plan be endorsed and the dog off-leash area be replaced with a natural area.
All right, any other comment, any further comments on that?
Well, I just think that would encompass it, from from my personal opinion, we'll see what council thinks later. But I think we said the dog off-leash area. I got a good response from staff. We could put natural area, and I live natural, not a programmed area, but a natural area. And it could be replaced there. And in essence, we're endorsing it, which means it will go to council as a positive recommendation. Everything else is good. There's one thing, and then we can approve it at council. Okay.
That point taken there. Great, thanks. Any other comments around the table on this? Councillor Hobbs. There we go.
Thank you, and through the chair, well, I'll be supporting that motion, and I think it's very reasonable and it's good. And thanks to the delegates for their comments. I think it's really important when you have a park this small, and it is so well done, the plan is so well done, that we don't get it too diluted with too many different themes. So I think the natural theme that Councillor McNulty just referred to and others have is a good way to look at this park and to make that the main focus of this park. And so I'll be supporting that motion. Thank you.
All right, so just to make sure we got it in correct wording here, the motion on the table is as written, except the last word is striked out. Instead of it being approved, it's to be endorsed with the removal of the off-leash park, or off-leash area, and to be replaced with natural area programming.
Natural areas. No.
Natural areas. Thank you. Okay, and that was motion from Councillor McNulty, seconded Councillor Glanders. All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Thank you. Carried. And that's the end of that item. Thank you very much, staff, for being available, and for delegates for their work on this. Okay, that takes us to the item number 3, South Arm Community Park Playground Contribution.
I'd move the recommendation.
And staff are just coming up here. Is there anything you'd like to add or highlight for us?
Nothing to add, to Chair.
Okay. Is there any comment? And
Moving the recommendation.
motion and seconded. Are there any comments, questions? I will just make, Councillor Hobbs, you have.
Let me get through the chair. This was very kind of exciting. You know, the additions, the climbing tower and the zip line by the community center. I just want to say that that deserves some recognition, that the community centers are able to be thriving in Richmond and be able to contribute, you know, $200,000. That's significant. And it doesn't really have any budgetary impact on us. There might be some upkeep or something, but it doesn't really impact the budget. And I just think that they deserve to be recognized and have credit for making such a significant contribution. And I think we're lucky to live in a city where our community centers are thriving and able to generate that kind of contribution to the community through their programming. And so, great report. Kids are gonna love this too, right? So.
Thank you. Councillor Day.
Yeah, thank you very much. So this $200,000 is coming from the South Arm Community Association? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Wow, that's really great. I'm very impressed, and I think that I agree. The kids are gonna absolutely love this. I mean, they love the castle, don't get me wrong, but it was there for like 45 years and it had run its course. I think spinners, saucer swings, towers, and play circuits are going to be, especially the zip line, are gonna be a big hit. My only question is maintenance. Obviously, the castle was just made out of cement blocks. There wasn't much to it. How will the maintenance be to maintain this apparatus?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, the zip line that will be incorporated is a lower maintenance one. It's more robust than some of our other cable systems. So it's more like a track system. So we anticipate that the maintenance should be fairly low on the zip line and as the tower as well. We're working with Habitat and Landscape Systems, and there's a warranty with all of the equipment as well, which.
I think that's one of the reasons play equipment is so expensive, because it comes with that warranty that goes on forever. I remember we were building the playground at Woodward Elementary, and the playground wasn't the expensive part, it was the warranty part. My last question is vandalism. Is it going to be built in such a way that it'll be able to, unfortunately, we do have a lot of teenagers in the area with 2 high schools, and sometimes, they get naughty. So are we going to be okay with the vandalism aspect of being so close to the high schools?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, all of the materials are fairly robust, prefabricated panels, which we should be able to pressure wash or scrub off if there is vandalism. And staff would like to, we haven't solidified it, but would like to maybe work with some local youth or graffiti artists to maybe enhance the tunnel as a way to maybe allow for some sanctioned graffiti.
So basically engage the young folks, the youth, to be part of the plan so they'll respect it more.
Yeah, we would like to.
Great idea. Thank you.
All right, no other comments? It's motions on the table. All in favor? And opposed, if any? Thank you very much. Thank you, staff, for being available for that. I had 2 items added from Councillor Glanders, just short items here in writing. So I guess we'll entertain number 3A, 3B, and then manager's report. So 3A, the title was Burkeville Trees. So Councillor Glanders.
Thank you, Councillor Wolf. I've been informed that we have several trees in the Burkeville area that are dangerous, and that we had one that fell on a house recently in the past year. And I just didn't know where to bring this up, so I just brought it up at Parks, just to ask staff if the arborist has assessed the trees at Burkeville, because I know that the Burkeville Park upgrades are not recommended in our current budget. So I just want to make sure that the trees would be dealt with separately and soon, because it sounds like they're dangerous.
Anyone from staff who can comment on that? Thank you.
Through the chair to Councillor Yolanders, staff are aware of there's a lot of mature elm trees in the Burkeville area, and of course there was that failure that you're referring to. Of course that tree was dealt with, and since then there have been many inspections. That tree failed. A lot of residents phoned in asking about their trees, and so all of those requests were entered formally as service requests, and there's been a number of inspections in that area. And what I can do is provide a little bit more background on the status of where those inspections are tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, anytime. That would be great. If you had a memo that you could provide that just shows the status, we can get emails as well.
Okay, good, good. Thank you.
Thank you. And the second item, or 3B, is Hurling House, Hurling Residence, and the potential for a parks relocation plan for that. Is there anyone from staff who could comment on the ability for parks to be looking for a site? Does that fall to anyone here? So Hurling Residence is the one on Sexsmith that was discussed a few weeks ago.
Yes, from what I understand, policy planning is working on a memo and a report back to council with a recommended location for the house. Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. That takes us to manager's report. I believe there's one manager's report, or maybe more.
Good afternoon. I have 2 items to update the committee on. First of all, on Saturday, November 19th, we held the inaugural public tree sale. It went quite smoothly, and we had over 450 residents and parties come to the Works Yard at Linus Lane to pick up their trees, and many, many happy faces and requests for additional tree planting events, I should say tree sale events, And staff is looking to explore a plant sale that would offer more trees and a wider variety of trees.
Okay, just a comment on that then, before your next one. I recall at a Vancouver tree sales event, it started out as just being trees, and they morphed into this much larger event where other things were available for sale or for giveaways. At the time, I was doing my master's degree, and we actually created little pocket gardens that we would give to people who are in lineup to get a tree. So as a way to promote planting low vegetation native plants along with your tree. And we were able to get a community grant at the time to be able to give these away to all tree recipients. So perhaps, yeah, there are maybe existing grant opportunities or other partners with educational institutions that might find a way to make this an even more enhanced and smooth event going forward. So yeah, looking forward to it. Thank you. And on your second
Yes.
update.
Thank you. This past Saturday, November 26th, in the morning, we had 20 or so intrepid members of the 10th Sea Scouts troop, as well as 3 members of the eco team from London Steveston High School and a member of the Bark Park community to attending the tree planting event at the dog park. We planted 12 trees, a mix of deciduous and coniferous trees, and the locations and species was determined based on the input as well, of the Let's Talk Richmond survey that was held earlier this past autumn, where we had over 200 respondents provide feedback on tree selection and locations at the park.
Yeah, great updates, thank you. Anyone else from management? Okay, and all those in favor of adjourning this meeting? Okay, we'll be going into a closed meeting momentarily, so.